Hello. This week I'm returning to the train project. Um, and basically, what I'm going to do this week is I'm going to start work on these track pieces. I've got 9 straights to do. Now, I have got some points and some curves as well, but I may need to order more of them, so I'm leaving them for now. I'll just get the straights done. And I'm also going to build up these 2 Sarissa kits for points, signals. So that's what I'm going to be doing this week. The first thing I'm going to do though, before I start opening these, is I'm going to take these away and get them matte blacked just to start with, and then I can build up the colours and everything from that. So that's going to be my first job, so I'll bring you back when they're done. So the undercoat's dry now, and what I'm going to do, I'm going to keep these relatively simple. That way if I add to it, it'll be easy, to make sure they all match. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over the majority of it, perhaps not the actual sleepers themselves, with a necromancer cloak army paint, which is like a dark grey. So nothing too careful on this, just avoiding the wood really. Can paint the rail as well. Because what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be putting some scatter on here anyway. I'm not going to bother painting the reverse side of these. They'll be fine because they're just going to be lying on the mat anyway, so that's not an issue. And that's it really. That's all I'm doing on this first pass over. So I'll get the rest of these done, and then when they're dry I'll bring you back. Well, that's all the grey done. So it's back to my old friend Vallejo Old Wood. And I'm going to use that as the base colour for the sleepers. I'm going to try and be reasonably careful with this, but you got to remember that we're going to be putting some scatter down in between the sleepers, so we'll get away with a certain amount of error, but try and keep it as best I can. You can see how it's going anyway. It's not perfect. I keep catching the odd bit, but I'm not going to worry about that because, like I say, I'm putting scatter over it. But I'm trying to be as reasonably careful as I can, and we can tidy up any other bits in the dry brushing stage anyway. Right, I'm going to plug on and get the rest of this done and do all the others to the same level, and then when they're dry I'll bring you back. Right, so while I'm waiting to get some more track, I thought I'd break off to do these, and then we'll go back to the track later. So first thing I'm going to do is build these up. It shouldn't take very long. There's not very much to it. Right in thinking that you're getting two. Well, that's pretty good. I didn't realise there was two in the pack. Wow. Right. Let's just pop all the bits out first. I'm going to use a knife to just help some of these out a bit. No breaks on it. I think what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go around the edge and you can see the little bits, you know, where it's pressed out, and I want to take them off now. Yeah, that's better. It's not that much on it, but I just don't want it to show. Right. Showing them sticking together like that. Right. Right, so it's worth fiddling around with this a little bit to make sure you've got all the edges lined up. Right, so that's glued that to that. And then we slip this little square lug over the end. Actually, I think it'd be easier if I put it into this. Right, let's put a bit of glue on there and a round for the square to sit on. Let's have a look. So pop that in there like that, and then squeeze a square down on top. It's not a brilliantly tight fit, that, but hopefully when we get the rest of the bits on, it's going to make it a little bit more, you know, firmer, you know, so I can handle it a bit better. Alright. Right, so what's the next bit? Alright, I need to put these ladder supports on. Now these have got a slope where it meets the ladder, so you want that slope so it slopes at the same angle. I know it's obvious, but it's very easy when you're rushing ahead with something like this to get it wrong. Right, so let's glue these in place. Just trying to keep the glue fairly light. I don't want it to be... It's harder to handle it as well when you put too much glue on. Alright, so that's the first one. And make sure it's upright. Come on, glue. There we go. It's always handy to have a little cloth by you when you're doing a job like this, otherwise you suddenly find your fingers are sticking to everything. Right, so that's that. Right, now the ladder, yeah, it's equal at both ends, isn't it? Right, so a bit of glue on the feet. Lay that down a minute. I want some glue on the outside edges of this. Right. So then the ladder goes up to that. You pass those lugs on the end between the steps of the ladder. Right, next bit. Platform. Right. Put a bit of glue where it sits on the lugs, and a little bit where it meets the pole. One more thing. A little spot of glue on top of the ladder. Like that. So that's what that's looking like now. It's still a little bit wobbly, obviously, but once that glue goes off, it'll be fine. Right, so now we're getting to the working parts. Glue spigot, well, glue signal pivot bearing H. So this little round bit then. To spigot J, which is these bits. A little small rectangle. And then when you do that, you've got to pass it through the hole in B, which is there. Right, let's do it one bit at a time. Right, so now I put that, I don't glue it, I just push it through the hole. With that bit sticking through, so can you see that? It sticks through. And now the next bit is you put this on, and I'm presuming if you want to be able to move it, you only got to glue this to the actual bit that's sticking through and not the surface, because that way you'll be able to manoeuvre it. Right, so if that's the case, then I've got to just make sure the glue is only in the hole. Oh, yeah, there's none on that side. Excess off. Right, yeah. So that moves, look. Alright, so that's that one on. Same on this. So it's making sure I get the glue in the hole. It's alright to get it on the outer surface of the ring because you can wipe her off, but you don't want it on the inner one because that needs to move. Right, so if I pass the spigot pin thing through, that'll take any glue straight out the front. There we go. And that will go through there, like the other one. Again, we want glue from the outside. Wipe off the excess. See what I mean? There's a bit of glue there. If I left that in place, that's going to stick it together and it won't be able to move. So there we go. Let's take that off. Right, squeeze it up again. And that's it. As I say, I can't wiggle these around too much at the minute because you do need it to set to the pin. But then in theory you'll be able to move these up and down as you would on a Signal. Which would be good because it'll come in handy in the game itself that I've got planned for it. Right. I won't drag you through the rest of this. I'll make up the others off camera, and then when they're dry I'll bring you back and we'll start the painting. Right, back in a minute. I thought I'd quickly bring you back here just to show you how observant I am. As you can see, I've got 6 of them, and clearly when I picked these up I wasn't reading or paying attention. I thought I'd just picked up 2 of the same type, but in actual fact you've got the double signals and there was 2 of them, and then the other pack had the single signals, 2 packs of 2. So I mean, it's clear enough on the wrapper, but did I read it? No, I didn't. But anyway, it's a bonus really, because it's going to give me plenty of flexibility when I'm laying things out. And the other good thing about it is, of course, me being the clumsy person I am, I'm always going to have a backup if I lose one along the way and I can't fix it. But that shouldn't be a real issue. But yeah, I'm pleased with them really. Just wished I'd used my glasses on the day. Anyway, the other thing that I wanted to bring you back for, and this is the bonus for me, is before I threw the sprues away, I've cut off all serviceable bits that I thought I could use. Now, I mean these, yeah, they're fairly narrow, but they would work great as a base for a fence or hedge or a bush. Obviously they're a bit long, but I'm leaving them that length so, you know, I can cut it to the size I want when I do it. And look how many of them I got out of it. So I've got all of them from these kits. I also keep little things like that. Well, you've seen it when I sorted out my stuff before. This is how I go about it. And then out of the same sprues, I've got these shorter ones, which can be, you know, cut down and smoothed into bases. And then I've also got some rectangle bases. So on the whole, I'm pretty pleased with that. It's got nothing to do with the project, but I see this kind of thing as a little bonus. So I just thought I'd share that with you. So basically what I'm going to do now is I'm letting these all dry first. When they're dry, what I might do is just bring back, you know, either one of each or just the one, because they're pretty much painted the same, even if it has got 2 on it. and I'll do that when they're thoroughly dry, and then we can get back to the tracks and get them done. Right, I'll be back soon. Right, just to update you, I've managed to lay my hands on a bit more of this track because it was the curve pieces I was short of, so I managed to get some of them off somebody. So I've been busily painting them up while my signals dried. And then the other thing that I've done just before I brought you back is I gave these a very light blast with some white primer, just to get me started really with, and then I can block in the main colours. So I've had a look at some pictures online. I've also had a look at pictures of the models themselves, and predominantly the ladder seems to be like a grey-black metal, I think. So I'm going to be using my Necromancer by Army Painter for that. And the same with the brackets and the base square. And then also the actual circle parts here and this arrangement, and then the lugs underneath the platform. So that's what I'm going to be painting all of that in. Let's get the actual colour. Necromancer Cloak by Army Painter, but it's basically just a dark metallic type grey. In fact, it ain't even metallic, it's just dark grey. So that's what I'm going to be working on now. I won't drag you along for all of this, but essentially I'm just keeping a light coat on it. I'm not going to worry about how perfect the finish is. I mean, I'm blocking it in, but at the end of the day, it's going to be worn and weather beaten, so it doesn't have to be totally perfect. That said, obviously I want to make sure that the paint stays only where it's meant to be. But I certainly won't be going to the trouble of giving this a second coat on this black colour. I'm just going to leave it as it is, and then any other touching up that I do, it'll be just a bit more weathering maybe. But as with the rails really, it's a bit of a laborious job, because you kind of got to paint in between every strut and in all directions. But that said, I mean, even though I've only given it the lightest of dustings with this white primer, it is allowing this to go on a lot easier, and to a finish that I can live with really. Obviously the time consuming bit is the fact that I'm going to have to do this so many times, which is why I'm not going to bring you on bring you to watch that on camera, because I think that would be very boring. It's certainly proving boring for me, but I've tried a different technique while I've been doing this, because it is such a monotonous type job, and I'm just catching up on some of my friends' YouTube videos. You know, I might not be able to totally concentrate, but I can listen and I can see what's going on. It's a good way of having a bit of company along the way. Very easy one to miss a bit here, so. And if you can hear that rattling and everything, it's really windy here again today. So. don't think I'd have, I mean, the tracks, you know, just painting the tracks up as, oh, such a job. But I'm glad it's done now. I mean, obviously I've still got to weather it, and I've still got to put some chippings down in between each piece here. But I'll come to that. It's just one of those jobs that you just got to put your head down and get on with it, really. Anyway, oh, butterfingers. I'll just show you. Look, that's how that's going. Obviously, I've got a long way to go yet, but like I say, it's fairly basic painting, really. There's nothing to be gained through dragging you through the whole process. It's just something, like I say, that I just need to plough on with, really. When I come back to the more detailed bit about the sign, I'll probably bring you back the actual lever part. I'll bring you back for that. I've had a look round for the colours of those pieces, and I think at the end of the day, I'm just going to go with what I've seen on other people's models and the normal British standard, even though it's Europe, because I've not managed to successfully find any colour French versions from that period I can work to. So I'm gonna kind of just use my imagination, really. At the end of the day, it's they'll still look the part. But I've no doubt all those terrain people out there will be able to tell me exactly what colour and what factory they got the colour from and everything. But I'm afraid I'm just I'm only a casual train person for this project. That said, if you are one of those people and you see something that you think I really ought to change, you know, just drop it in the comments. And if it doesn't involve starting all over again, I may well take up your suggestion. Right, I'll bring you back when I get to a bit more interesting things to do. So what I've done now is I've just basically done a very light touch of white, mainly in places where it's not completely caught the wood underneath, and also any bits that I've caught with the black initially when I was doing these parts and the ladder. So I'm just keeping it a light dusting because I don't want it to look pristine. I want it to look, you know, like it's been painted some time ago and then worn off. So I'm keeping it a light touch. I think where I get in between some of these narrow bits, I'm probably going to have to finish with a bit of a touch up of the black, but that's fine. But as you can see, if I bring it closer, it looks weather worn, and that's really what I want it to look like. And you see where there's bits that have not been caught with the white, so I just keep it a light touch. Like that. So it still looks worn. And then the other thing that I'm doing on this now as well is I'm starting to paint the platform at the top of the ladder in the old wood. That involves obviously the edges and the underneath part as well. Let's finish this one round and I'll show you the top. Right, so that's looking like that now. Obviously I've got to do the underneath. The only other thing that I have tried to do is the actual signal itself. I've been a little bit more thorough with any white that I add to that, just so when I add the colours they'll show up a lot better. But basically I'm trying to make it look like it was painted a long while ago. That's the effect I'm going for. Right, I'll get the rest of these platforms done now, and then I'll bring you back when I come to do the signals. Right, I've had a bit of a look round at train signals. This seems to be the most common colour, so I'm going to go with this. And then just bring it down to here. And just take that all the way around. The bottom one I think is going to be yellow, but I'll come back to that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the colour all the way around it so it appears the same on the other side. And then I'll bring you back. Right, so on this on the second one, all I'm going to do is I'm just going to paint this yellow all the way around. It does need like a black chevron or arrow on it, but I'm going to paint this yellow first and then paint that on with black when it's thoroughly dried. I think that'll be easier. So that's looking like that now. And as I say, there's only 2 of these anyway. Ah, nearly touched the red with it. Right, so I'm just going to leave them to dry and then I'll bring you back. We'll just paint the black cross on it and then they'll be nearly done and we can move back onto the track. Okay, back in a minute. Right, the final bit is the black arrow. Right, so that's that. just got one more of them to do, and then they'll be done. So what I'll do is I'll get that finished. We'll move these to one side, and then we'll start with the main part of the tracks, which is laying down the grit. Right, back in a minute. Now that the signals are done, I can turn my attention back to the track, and basically what I'm going to be adding is this grit as a ballast in between the tracks. But obviously I need to keep it fairly low level, and I'm just going to use some of this Geek Gaming basing glue for this. What I will do is once it's dried, I'll probably give it a watered down PVA as well, and then the final thing that I'll do when it's completely dry is give it a blast of matte varnish, and that's really just to protect this paint. The other thing I'm gonna do, but probably not on these smaller bits, is I might add one or two little tufts here and there, or parts of a tuft. I'm not going to overdo it. I'm going to leave most of it clear, but I'll put the odd one on. So I'll show you that when I get to it. First of all, I'll do one of these little ones so I can just show you what I'm attempting to do. I'm just going to put a little bit of glue down in the main areas, and then I'm going to move it around with a brush, an old brush, because I think that'll be the easiest way of doing it and keeping it where I want it, directing it. Right. Right. So that's the glue on it. Put it down. I'm doing it in the tray obviously so I can keep it all neat and tidy and tip off the excess. Doesn't matter if I put too much on at the minute because I can just shake it off afterwards. So that's what it's looking like. Clearly there's going to be one or two loose bits that will come off. Obviously what I'm going to do is I'm going to let the majority of it dry first, and then using a dry brush I'll flick off any bits that are not where I want them before doing the sealing layer. But what I'm going to do is just let that to dry. Right, what I'm going to do is I'm going to crack on and get some more done. I might bring you back at some stage when I'm adding a few of the tufts just to show you what kind of effect I'm looking for. But as I said at the beginning, I'm not going to be using many. Right, I'm back in a minute. So I'm gradually getting through them, and I just thought I'd bring you back to show you, what I'm doing on the occasional one before I add the grit. Is I'm just adding tiny little bits of tuft. I don't want anything too big. Maybe if it were the Wild West it'd be a little bit more like that, but this is not. This is Europe, so I don't want too much in the way of greenery on the tracks. So that's about it, and like I say, I'm probably only doing that on one in every 3 or 4, so I'm keeping it to a minimum really. Right, I'll plug on and get the rest of these done, and then I'll bring you back when they're dry for the next stage. So these are dry now. The odd one's a bit tacky, but that's fine. And what I'm going to do now is just do a little bit of dry brushing to the wood. To make it look a little bit more weathered. I'm using a very light grey. I'm not going to worry too much if I catch the odd stone. So if I show you that one, that's before, that's after. It's not a massive difference, it's just subtle. That's what it's looking like on the long one. It just knocks it down a little bit. Right, so they've all been misted with the grey, and as I say, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to give it a dry brush on the rails of the metal. It's gun metal that I'm using. I'm only doing the top. So if I show you that one, whether it's going to show up very well, but I'll try. So that's unpainted. And that's with the metallic. It doesn't show well on the camera, but trust me, it's there. Right. Right, I'll get the rest of these done, and then I'll bring you back and we'll get this one wrapped up. Right, so it's complete. I've given everything a quick spray with matte varnish, and thought I'd just set a bit of it up in situ on a mat so you can see it. And it's been quite a long process because obviously it's, quite time consuming painting the trap. But it's worth it. I'm glad I've done it. And I'm sure it'll be seeing plenty of action on different bolt action scenarios, not to mention the one I've got planned. Particularly pleased with the signals now. They look great in situ. So, yeah, pleased with them. Anyway, I hope you found some of this interesting. If you have, please consider giving me a thumbs up. Any comments, drop them below. And, if you want to see more of this, please subscribe and click that bell. Right, I'll see you again soon. Bye.